Thank you very much once again on behalf of SBAU, Milan, for your time, and we're looking forward to your lecture. You will tell us shortly something about digital world, like how good, bad, and even ugly it can be. Thank you very much once again. The floor is yours now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. You used lots of great expressions, so the pressure is now on me. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming. Actually, it's great to see some familiar faces, even some ex-MBA graduates that went through my class. It's always a pleasure to come to AAU, to be honest, because the cooperation goes back many years. What I enjoyed the most was the MBA program that went for 15 years. I was there since year one. So it was always 3 weekends in a row, operations and technology management. I met plenty of great people. Some of them actually landed in GE because of how we met, how we interacted during the classes or after the classes. I'm still meeting some graduates, AAU MBA graduates. I keep meeting in different businesses in different environments. Year ago, I changed the job and I joined the company, and I heard a similar voice. I heard a familiar voice that I heard like probably 25 years ago. She actually graduated from, at that time, Anglo-American college before there was a rebranding and a new certification. My wife, coincidentally, is also an AAU graduate some 20 plus years ago. So I have a connection with AAU. So whenever anything happens, whenever I get a call, kind of, hey, please, can you, always ready to serve and always happy to be here. Digitization is my favorite subject. So if I start talking too long about particular item, please just raise your hand and recalibrate me because I can get excited about certain things. My first exposure to digitization was back in 2001. I finished my university. GE sent me to the US, GE Transportation, headquarters, Erie, Pennsylvania, and that was the year when GE went digital. Digital at that time meant implementing some B2B environment, business to business, connecting your operations with your supply chains, digitizing the supply chains, automated generated purchase orders, self-invoicing, electronic auctions, all those kind of things. So it was completely new to me. It was completely new to the market, quite frankly. And I got so much excited about it. And when I got back to Czech Republic, I contacted my university, which was Czech Technical University, and I, can you open a PhD program for me, which would be just e-business. And since it was so new in the Czech Republic, they did. So since then, I kind of stay in touch with digitization. Of course, digitization today is completely different compared to what it was 20, 25 years ago, and it still keeps evolving. In terms of digitization or any new technology, my big suggestion is to you is always be mind open, get a context, and don't just fall into ideology. Nowadays, the society is typically divided. People who completely believe in something and people who completely don't believe in something, okay? And there's not too much of an overlap. It is a fact, and you can see it everywhere. Whether it's politician, et cetera, everything is usually 50.5% versus very polarized, very polarized society, and the same applies to the technology. So digitization, automation, artificial intelligence. Some people said that's the future, we bet everything on it, and they go full speed. And I'm not saying it's wrong. And then you have people, the other half of the population more or less saying, I don't know, let's be cautious, it might kill us, it's not going to be so fancy, it's not going to be so productive as we think, wait a bit, okay? So always get the context, have a clear thinking. 2 weeks ago, I had a chance to talk privately with Václav Smil. I don't know if you know that name, professor of Manitoba University in Canada. I mean, he's 80 years old now, but his brain is still probably like 30 years old and better. So he used the same thing. Instead of forecasting or betting one card on everything, be a scanner of wide horizons. So have your mind open. And that's why I even choose this, the name of this subject, of this session, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because like everything, there are good things in whatever, whether it's technology, idea, business model, there's something in between, and there's something that can really kill you. I mean, not necessarily physically, but can ruin your business model. I'll start with the good stuff, and kind of a high level, what's happening in our environment because of digitization. So digitization, the pressure on electrification or the pressure on decarbonization of the businesses, of the products. It's an interesting environment that really fosters the innovation. And the increasing computing power, the increasing capacity of the chips and some other technologies, it's really enabling and speeding up the innovations in terms of NPIs, new product introductions. So coming up with the new ideas, whether it's a product-oriented, whether it's a product, physical product, if it's a good, or if it's a services. And the rapid speed, the rapid amount of innovations is just tremendous. About 6 months ago, I was invited to Deloitte's Fast 50. It's a European competition. And they monitor startups on European level, country by country, and they scale them, rate them by the percentage of growth. Not only in one particular year, because eventually you can run 100 meters below 10 seconds eventually, but running 200 meters, 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers, it's a different story. So I think they look at the 3 years track record, and they calculate the average growth. And you see companies which have not like 150% growth, 250% growth. I think the winner was like 680% growth in 3 years. I wish I had that, or my companies had that. So still today, you can have such a huge growth for more than 1 year. And in some cases, I even didn't understand actually what that company was doing, to be honest. I had no idea what they were doing. In some cases, I got it. In some cases, I was surprised because I was like, okay, this is a commodity. It's a new software for ABC. There's like 10 other options. It's a commodity. But still, in such environment, if you copy somebody else's philosophy or business model, make an improvement, give it a better marketing, scalability, you can still achieve such a tremendous growth. So. And why? And by the way, and probably more than 65% of those top-ranked companies were software-related or digitization kind of enabled. So it definitely is something to watch. It's definitely something to be part of and use it in your advantage. The transition from fossil to electrics, that of course you need more and more digitization for that. Right? I mean, this would not exist. One would not exist without the other. So I will get into that a bit later. But just to sum up on this first one, lots of new products, lots of new services, and that innovation is enabled by digitization. Okay. The other area that affects us, it's a state, right? We usually live in a particular state. The state is, if you're lucky ones, we have a democratic government, and there needs to be a management, governance of the government. And you have certain countries where the government is highly digitized. Any experience, or do you have any suggestion what countries are considered to be state of the art in terms of digitization, state digitization, the e-government sort of? Scandinavia is used very often as a best in class. It's in the top 3. Finland, for example.
Well,
Okay. They have lots of. They also digitize surveillance and kind of yes. Then Estonia. Estonia is considered the number one. And I'm also active in the Anglo-American AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce. So once a year we organize a conference focused on digitization. Every time actually we had Minister Bartoš as a guest speaker and a participant of that conference. And when we organized it for the first time, we brought Martin, I forgot his surname, but he was the governmental official of Estonia, and he's, let's say, the father of digitization of that country. So he told us exactly, this is what we did, this is what we knew we didn't want to do, these were the lessons learned, here is the cookbook, go do the same thing. It's more difficult, especially in the Czech Republic, than just taking the cookbook from somebody else. But anyway, it worked there, and it's brilliant. So what he described a couple of principles. I put some of them in here. As an example, when you do your taxes, or when you need to renew your driving license, for example, you always submit lots of forms. Whether it's paper-based or if it's digital, doesn't matter, but you always submit lots of information to the government, to the state-owned organizations. And how many times they ask you for your name, address, etc. You always fill it again and again and again. In Estonia, they implemented a rule that every piece of information you submit only once. And once you submit it, they never ask you again because it is in the system. So the government systems are interconnected, the ministries, individual ministry systems are interconnected. So once you submit one particular piece of information, they never ask you again because it's already in the system. Then whoever from the state organization can actually touch that piece of information, but with a track record. They know exactly who touched it and when, who approached, who opened that information, how it was used. So total transparency, total security, etc., etc. So, for example, the example you used, kind of how much time it takes to establish a company, I forgot the numbers, but it's in terms of minutes. So in Estonia, it's a couple of minutes. The tax return, he was in Prague 2 years ago, so the tax return was 7 minutes, something like that. It was less than 10. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a call with him, just how things are going in Estonia. And we asked about the tax return forms because now it's becoming, next week is a deadline in Czech Republic. And he said that thanks to the AI, the government does your tax return. You receive it, you just say, does it look okay? And then you just click yes. They do it on your behalf. It's kind of like self-invoicing in the B2B environment. So those are the few examples from Estonia. Why you need to digitize the government? It's convenient, right? It's a public service. It makes your life more convenient. You have time for something more productive eventually. And two, I use the example from the number of the increased number of state employees in the Czech Republic, 2017 to 2021, 54,000 people extra in the government paid out of our taxes. So is government getting more productive? No. Our business is getting more productive, yes. Why businesses wants to be more productive? Why government is not more productive? It is more or less the same environment, the same principles. Process is process. Everything is process. So why not to digitize? There are 300,000 employees missing in the Czech Republic. Okay, the biggest issue of the Czech economy is lack of talented people. Okay, it's 300 people missing from the market, and the demographic curves are clear. Okay, you cannot argue. It's math. So the demographic curve says that in the next 2 years will be another 100K, so 400K. So if you can release 50,000 people from the government and put them in the businesses, the businesses would be happy, right? You would ultimately see economic growth. So digital government, digital state. Okay, that's another big area. Czech Republic is moving. It's slower. It's slower than what it could be, but it's going to affect us as well, and it's going to happen sooner or later. It will happen. Private life. Okay, I'll speed up. I will not go through every line, but of course the digitization is affecting our private lives. Theoretically, some non-value added task that you do at work, at home, etc., could be automated, could be digitized, so you have more time for yourself. If you ask people, do you have more time for yourself? Usually people say no. It's usually worse. And when you read the statistics, the percentage of people, especially the percentage of young people being depressed, whatever, it's increasing. Okay, it is increasing. So is the digitization really making our life easier? It should. It could. Reality is not that clear. What I like on digitization of private life is, for example, preventive healthcare. Preventive healthcare, I think we will see it more and more. Some people already do it voluntarily. Some people will be not forced, will be motivated by the insurance companies, for example, et cetera, to wear smart tech, et cetera. So you can see what's happening, you can see the trend, what your heart rate is doing over the time, what are your sleeping patterns, and you see what kind of, et cetera, right? So it's like preventive maintenance for the cars or for the airplanes. The same thing could be applied on the human body, and it will be happening. And it's that is, as long as you have a cybersecurity and you can protect the privacy, it is a good thing. Learning and education. I'll give you a perfect example where digitization can help. For example, today, okay, I spent 1 decade in aviation industry. So, for example, training of new military pilots, as an example. How it works today, or any kind of training, right? So you go for the class, you survive the class, there's a midterm, there's a final. Sometimes it's just the test, sometimes you have to do some practical examples as well. And we check your score, and you pass, you don't pass. But with the digitization, with AI or even the existing technology, you can do a biometrics, for example. So I can have 2 pilots who pass, right? You have a solo flight, you have a trainer sitting on a co-pilot seat, monitoring your reactions, seeing what you do, how confident you are, and you pass or you fail. Or you can use biometrics. I can monitor your heart rate. I can monitor your EKG of the activity of the brain. And I can have 2 pilots who pass, both successfully pass the training and final certification. But if one pilot has 25% higher heartbeat rate than normal or than the other guy, probably that guy was more nervous. So is that guy ready for the re-election? Okay, passing, yes, but is it really ready for the re-election? And that's where the biometrics comes in and the digitization, et cetera. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal in a couple of industries like aviation, like military. It's to improve the training experience and the impact of the training, the effectivity of the training. I'd like to clearly differentiate between these 2 terms. IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, versus Industry 4.0. Because people usually use it, interchangeably, out of meaning the same thing, but it is not the same thing. Any suggestions what the differences are? Or how would you interpret the differences, Industry 4.0 versus Internet of Things?
I know the IO systems is interaction between the things, like 2 different devices can communicate between each other, exchange information. But Industry 4.0, that you are making your operations more clever, so you're getting more information or more efficient with the systems. So they are related because you can use IO system in the Industry 4.0, but in Internet of Things is totally different, that you can connect with your phone, with the washing machine, you can get the information if it's done. The basic level in your daily life is like that. But Industry 4.0 is more about digitalization, about the industry than following all the information and improving.
Yeah, pretty much. And I would say that for me, industry, because it's called, just the name industry evokes that it is the operations. That's your operations. I have a site, I have operations, and that's an industry, right? So I'm digitizing, I'm robotizing, I'm automating industry. So people usually imagine just one section of the entire supply chain or value creation chain. And it's not only the general people, but usually the people in the businesses as well. Industry 4.0, I have to robotize, I have to automate, I have to implement a new MRP system in my operations, right? So that's typical what Industry 4.0 means. Industry 4.0 is a European term. It's already used only in Europe, pretty much. It's the other reason why I hate that word, because it was developed and used massively by Siemens, and GE and Siemens, we are not necessarily the best friends. But anyway, this is it, okay? Industry 4.0, meaning you optimize, you automate, robotize, digitize, whatever you can imagine, your operations, the industry. But there's plenty of other opportunities outside your factory, okay? Lots of things outside your factory. And actually, if you want to make a lot more money, then the money is outside your factory. You can get, in developed countries, you get 1.5% productivity year over year. In less developed countries, 5 to 8, let's say, annual productivity. By optimizing your operations, you can get more capacity eventually. More capacity means more revenues, better EBITDA, more profitability, But lots of money is outside your organization, outside your operations. And that's where the Internet of Things comes in play. I'll use an example of aviation because that's close to my heart. So if I would lock myself in Industry 4.0, I would be optimizing my operations. But what I can also do on the top of that, I can take my aircraft engine and I can put a couple hundreds of sensors on it. Okay, and then the sensors in real time monitors the performance of the device, of the engine or of the airplane, etc., and pretty much in real time send the data to your system. And that enables you to do so-called trend monitoring. Without IIoT, or let's say in I don't want to say in the old world, but even in today's world, most of the companies or some companies say, okay, I have a device, I will run it, and when it breaks, okay, I call the service, and it will get fixed eventually. If you put bunch of sensors on it smartly and you monitor the performance of the device, then you can get a signal. Hey, Czech airline, for example, in 350 hours, this turbine or this particular disc will break. It will break. There will be a failure. And you have, statistically speaking, 300 hours, flight hours to fix it. That's a different story, right? Imagine you want to fly on your vacation, you onboard the plane. After 40 minutes of delay, the captain says, dear passengers, we're sorry, we have to change the plane. Get out, okay? 3 hours for you as a user, 3 hours, 4 hours delay easily. But for an airline, it's an issue. You might miss your flight, so it's additional cost for accommodation, rebooking. It's crazy shit, okay? That costs lots of money. Not speaking about pissed customers and complaints, etc. But if you know, hey, in 300 hours, I will have an issue, then you can schedule a repair when it's most convenient for you. If you know the airplane will be in Singapore hangar from May 10 to next morning of May 11, you schedule proactively the maintenance when it's convenient for you for no additional cost. I mean, no crazy cost. So that's the power of industrial Internet of Things. The data, right? Very often it's connected to these other two terms, the big data and analytics. So, and that could be artificial intelligence, that could be the machine learning. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's a huge amount of data, and the analytics, the systems search for the correlations. The human body, human brain, or the army of humans would never be able to find the correlations amongst hundreds of variables, but the machines can. The machine says, hey, if you have a higher temperature here, higher vibrations there, and the fuel consumptions go up by 3%, that means that the third turbine will blow up eventually, okay? And so you know what's happening. The system doesn't know why. It doesn't know why it's gonna break. It's gonna break, and it's this piece that will break, and statistically in this amount of hours. It's a huge, it's amazing. It's a high value of the information that you have, and you can optimize your productivity, your business model. Okay, so that's part of the big data, analytics, and industrial Internet of Things. So that's kind of down the road in terms of your operations, and then you release your products or services into the field. And of course, you charge for this service to your customers. You can brutally increase your profitability because the customers will be willing to pay for that, right? You said, this is the value that this tool provides to you. I want to get a piece of it, and you will get that piece of it because the value is tremendous. But you can do the same thing upstream, okay, with your suppliers. When you design your parts, the data is loaded into your system, so you know exactly who, when, what material, what tool, what machine, work on that particular piece. So that's the industrial Internet of Things versus Industry 4.0. So it's always don't get yourself locked into a particular box. So I think, how do I define my box? Okay, because that's where the opportunities are. Few examples still kind of on the good, the good stuff about the digitization. Some examples of what the new technology can give us, or not can give us, but is giving us if you use it smartly, if you know what you're doing. You see these two parts, it does the same thing. It does the same thing, okay? It has the same function. But you can see that the shape is different. I guess the weight is different. The cost per piece is different, and probably some mechanical properties of those parts are different as well. So normally, if you're an engineer, you graduate from the university, the traditional way, this is how you design the parts, right? That's a design practice. That's how you're gonna do it. But with this increasing computing capacity and speed of computing, you can get to these kind of shapes. And the design, the mindset for the designer is completely different, because you go to the application or you go to the software, doesn't matter, and you just define what you want that part to do. Like, okay, I need to connect A and B in this distance. And then the only thing that you add is, what is your priority? What are you prioritizing the design for? For strength, for weight, for the cost of the part, because it would have a different kind of a design. So this is what you load into the system. And then the system designs randomly thousands of shapes, but because of the computing capacity, it evaluates that particular design against your criteria. And it says, okay, so if you optimize for the weight, because for example in aviation weight is important, this is the best design. You would never come up with this design. The guys from CVUT would never come up with this design, right? But they need to have the expertise how to define your requirements to a black box, let's say, and the black box will come with this design. And look, it's not that the black box is smarter. It's just the black box can quickly evaluate thousands of random options, semi-random options, and says, against your criteria, this is the best case. Okay, so it's completely changing the way we can design the shapes, and very often this is called alien, for some reasons, okay, it's called alien shapes, because some of the new shapes coming out from these designs, it really looks like from out of the space. No, it's really look like, it actually looks like very natural, like what the Mother Nature would do. It's that's interesting. And anyway, then how do you produce this shape? I mean, the conventional technology cannot even produce this shape, but so you have a new technology, new digital tools for design, but then also you have a new technology, new digital technologies for the production, like 3D printing, etc., etc. I will not go into details, but one thing is to design it, but the other thing is, and it could be a completely different thing, is to produce it so it actually works. And the digitization is actually enabling that nowadays. connecting minds and machines. So now continuing on that note of industrial Internet of Things, there's kind of three basic principles. One is connecting machine to machine. So it's basically full automation in a production. So wherever you can, eliminate a human being and put the robot in it. Okay, I'm oversimplifying, but that's it. Connecting machines to machines. So you have a particular, CNC machine, it does certain things. Then it is a different kind of a machine. So automated robot arms will unload it here, upload it, right? So, and there are factories already today without a human being. I had a chance to visit one in Japan. They had to switch on the lights because they don't normally need the lights because there are no humans inside. Everything works autonomously, not autonomously, but it's automated production, pretty much without a human touch. So that's where it's gonna go for sure. The limits are okay, and then we will see a different speed of implementation in Asia, in Europe, and in US, because different cost of the labor, different power of trade unions, different cost of capital, different cost of labor, okay? But it is gonna happen. Some business models are supporting this to be implemented a lot faster, like high volume, low mix, etc., etc. But we don't have to go through the details. But this is gonna happen. It is happening already. It's just the question of the business case and of the money. The other one is human to machine. So you're connecting humans with the machines. The example I use here are either some cobots, cooperative robots, cobots, or these kind of projections where you still need, it's difficult to automate, it's complicated assembly or complicated sub-assembly, so you still need to have a human being, you need to have an operator to do the assembly with his or her hands. But you want to avoid the potential mistakes of that operator. So basically what you have is you have a HD high definition camera, and you have a projector, and then the projector, whether it's a laser beam or whatever kind of a technology, points, okay, take this part. You take that part, the HD camera has a shape recognition capability, of course, so it immediately knows if you're taking the good part or the bad part, if you follow the right sequence, etc., etc. It is helping the operator to be more productive. It's helping you not to make a mistakes that you take a different part on the wrong place, etc., etc. That you use the right tool for the right part. So it's, some people would argue, hey, and then I'm kind of using a monkey job. Okay, I'm a monkey, and the freaking machine is telling me what to do. And the answer to that is people nowadays in operation environment don't want to take a responsibility. So the studies show that people don't mind that the machine is kind of making their life easier. And from the quality perspective, it's called pokayoki. It's a defect free. You try to eliminate the mistakes. The other advantage is, of course, that if you record it all, you have a digital logbook, basically. You know what happened, what time, who did it, and if anything happens 10 years later, plane goes down, hundreds of people die, you do the investigation, you can get to the particular operation because you just pull out the file and you can see exactly what happened, if that was the root cause. So that's human to machine, augmented reality, probably is going to be a big thing. There were some issues because this started probably like 6 years ago, but the technology was not ready. The battery didn't last long. Some people felt a bit dizzy. I tried it on myself. It takes a couple minutes until your brain adjusts to that, but it's actually cool. And as soon as they solve the battery life and battery densities, I think this will be widely used. I don't know if you had any experience with augmented reality. Virtual reality is clear, right? I mean, you have the goggles, you don't see through it, you are in a virtual environment. But augmented reality is extended reality, so you see through it, like I see you, but on the top of it, I would see some additional pieces of information, like if I need to deliver this part to somewhere in this building, actually the goggles would be showing me the arrows, where do I go, what floor, and giving me additional piece of information, so I'm more productive, etc. Digital twin. Again, hopefully I will not get too much into technical details, but any experience? You guys heard of digital twin? Yeah. So maybe can you share what's your understanding of digital twin?
Well, a lot of businesses, especially where you have sort of complex products, in airplane, you try to keep a sort of like a digital model of the plane on hand. I assume somewhere in a file. I don't personally have a lot of experience with it, but you can essentially, or actually architecture, buildings. You have a digital twin, you can see like AutoCAD, you can see exactly where you have a building, a really complex item, a lot of machinery, a lot of moving parts, you can see, or a lot of parts, you can say, you can really see inside, you can see the different parts of the airplane, all the different joints, all the different, well, I guess in the building's case it would be floors, and you could sort of identify through the computer, through the simulation, what exactly needs to be done. I think another example is my stepsister used to work for like a highway company, and you have to they make like a digital twin of all the highways before they're built, and you need to have a very, very specific elevation, and they sort of digitally map out the layout of the area, and you could sort of like build a highway based off of that. You see where you have to even it out a little bit more and whatnot. So
yeah, that's pretty much it. So everything that's a real asset has a digital image somewhere in the virtual space. And actually, the way it started, I remember when I was explaining this concept, I was told it kind of started in Amazon. Okay, Amazon.com. Because if you use Amazon.com, they know everything about you. You don't have to type how many siblings you have, if you still have your parents, you have a wife, kids, how many mistresses, whatever. They know, and you don't have to tell them because of your behavior on the website. What you're looking at, what you're putting aside, what you actually buy, in what frequency. They have your digital twin. If you use Amazon, if you use it frequently, they have your virtual body in the system. And they know everything about you. And so what you see then on the screen is not random. It's customized. It's personalized to a particular person, not a client group, not a market segment, to a particular person. So the same thing applies to assets, to physical assets, whether it's nuclear power plant, whether it's aircraft engine, locomotives, wind turbine, doesn't matter. The same thing happens. How you do it, you have a theoretical model. So for example, you design a brand new airplane and you define in the system, let's call it a black box, you define how it should work and how it should behave theoretical. The theoretical model, the thermodynamics, whatever is in the model. All the theory is in the model. And then going back to industrial Internet of Things, you have sensors, and the sensor sends big data into your system on a regular basis or even in real time. And constantly, the system compares the theoretical model of how that particular asset should behave versus the reality. And as long as everything matches, it's fine. But then the theoretical model says, okay, I see the airspeed 300 knots, the air pressure outside, the temperature, is this. The pressure on the compressor should be whatever. But the actual data says it's 10% less. So then you get a signal. Something is wrong with this asset. Okay, the compressor doesn't work. Probably do ABC. Clean up the compressor, do the compressor wash, etc., etc. Right? So you have a theoretical model. So you need to have a really brain power as an engineer. So you load and define the theoretical model. You explain how Milan behaves, what he does, what he likes. You put it in the freaking Amazon. And then whenever I log in, it compares, is Milan behaving according to our predictions? And if not, something is wrong, okay, send him a different ad. So this is the same thing with the assets. It's tremendous. Today, it's implemented less than what was planned 5 years ago, to be honest. It works well with a single asset. You could have a factory, and the factory has a bunch of hundreds or thousands of sensors. It keeps sending the big data, and the system keeps evaluating theoretical model of that plant versus the reality, and it giving you pieces of information and suggestions what to do. The idea was, and still is, to have this capability at individual asset level. So if you have a railway company, using your example, you have 500 locomotives, you monitor every single one, and every single one has a theoretical model. And in real time, you're comparing theoretical model of each particular asset with the reality, and you take the actions if needed. So that's a principle of a digital twin. Now, moving forward, there are new technologies on the horizon, or emerging technologies on the horizon. Can you think of a couple of them? What are some examples? Flying cars, for example, autonomous driving. I mean, there's lots of things that's happening. Now, my suggestion is, I mean, what I always suggested my MBA students is, you don't have to be experts in everything, but you gotta be dangerous enough to engage a conversation on what's going on in the business nowadays. So you never know who you meet. You could be somewhere in a conference and there's, I don't know, Bill Gates. I mean, you don't want to approach him and how do you like Prague, because he gets those questions thousands of times. But probably you want to ask him about his opinion about, I don't know, the ChatGPT level 5, for example. So we don't have to be the expert. I mean, okay, let me modify the advice. Have one thing that you're expert in. Okay, have one thing that you have a really expertise in, and the rest, be dangerous enough to be able to engage a conversation and kind of connect the dots and have a critical thinking. So I really suggest you know what's happening out there, what are the key topics, and it's autonomous driving, it's the digitization, electrification, all these kind of things, because that's what the businesses do today. High level of electrification, going to carbon neutrality. So it's about electricity consumption, cars, hybrids, hydrogen. Okay, those are the topics that resonate through the businesses. And again, my suggestion: be dangerous enough. This is. Have you seen this picture before? It's from 1942, 43, something like that. This was a study made in Great Britain when those bombers were coming back from the actions. Occasionally they were hit, right? But you can hit the airplane and you can still land safely. So they did the heat map. They did the statistical study. Okay, so all the airplanes that land back from the mission, what is the heat map of the hits? And you see, okay, so this is where they get hit. So the idea was, okay, so statistically speaking, this is where they get hit. Let's put some extra plates. Let's put some extra armory. So we're fine. If it gets hit, we don't have to worry about it. So that was the plan. That was almost to happen. And then I forgot the name of this guy, Mr. Walt, Hungarian mathematician. He said, wait a minute. This is not the full sample size. There are the airplanes that didn't make it back. Right? It means that you hit here, and you can get it back. You get back safe. You land safe. Everything is fine. You fix it and you fly again. But there are the other airplanes that never made it back. Probably they were hit in the other places. So we don't see the full sample size. Right? So this is the issue in current environment. I'm using this example because we live in an environment that you have a huge amount of data. You Google, you use ChatGPT, whatever. There's tons of data. And it's difficult to pick what's relevant, what's not. So I'm just trying to highlight what I'm trying to say here. Use your brain, critical thinking, look at it. Václav Smil said, don't trust anything. Don't trust anything. So critical thinking. And always make sure that you look at the full sample size, because you might be making a wrong calls. Now the worst thing, and the ugly piece of the digital story is of course cybersecurity, identity thefts, etc., etc. There's something called what we call in GE, we call it digital ghost, and the perfect example is a case that happened back in 2010 in Iran, and that was this enrichment of uranium. Have you heard this story? You know what happened?
I don't want to speak too much, but sure. So essentially, Iran for the past 30, 25 years or so has been enriching uranium to build nuclear weapons or for another reason, we don't know. Technically we don't know what happened, but let's just say the United States, Israel found out about this. They started adding backdoors to the uranium enrichment plants in Iran to their computer systems so that they could control, essentially make a digital twin of the uranium enrichment plants in Iran, to control them and to basically over time, so 2010 is I think when it sort of ended, but over maybe 5 years or so, the United States and Israel probably, they controlled through computer systems the way the uranium enrichment process was working in Iran, so they basically play around with it so that for example, they would heat it up too much so that the uranium would be destroyed and then Iran wouldn't have a nuclear weapon. And yeah, it's a little bit like spooky. Basically, all these, it was a hack that was there for 5 years, and they were essentially, I think it's called Stuxnet, the virus, and they controlled the uranium enrichment sort of over time until they basically ruined all of Iran's uranium so they can't make nuclear weapons.
So yes, exactly. So they never actually, I think they never admitted who it was, okay, who caused the attack, but those two could be a good typical suspects. But anyway, the idea is that you can do a cyber attack and you know about it, okay, I'm under attack, my site is down, okay, you know you're under attack. This was so smart, so somehow they got the virus in it, and they control it for a long period of time. I don't know if it was 5 years, but it was really for a long time. And the idea was, we don't want Iranians to find out, so let's just play a little bit with the system. So, I don't know, the temperature could be X, so you add 3%, 10%, up and down, da-da-da. So you're so confused that you don't know what's happening, why. So you're slowing down the progress on the research. You're slowing down the uranium enrichment process in a very smart way. You change the measurements, you change the temperature, you change the speed of the centrifuges. You can do lots of things remotely, so the target doesn't know about it, doesn't recognize it, and you can play about it for you. And I think it ended up the way that they just spin it like crazy and they destroyed it. It exploded, I think, after really quite some time. Now, the thing is that this could be happening, right? I mean, whether it would be happening on over a longer period of time, or if you just do one attack, but you have airplanes, everything is digital, right? That's the issue. Everything is digital twin, airplanes, navigation, submarines, nuclear power station, everything is digital. Everything is in a digital environment, and it's always the race, who will be faster, who will be smarter. Is it the, I don't want to call it terrorists, but the hackers or the defenders. So this is a big issue, this is a big risk, and that comes with the progress on digitization. Now, I think this is the final slide. So we talk big dreams about where digitization is going to take us and where it's taking us, and it's happening fast. It is happening. Now, I don't know where you were when the COVID kicked in, probably still that was 2 years ago. But the business is like, oh, yeah, we're digital, everything is automated, But then you need to have half of your employees or all the employees working remote, and then you realize it doesn't work. The firewalls, the access, the speed of the servers, you realize that was a real digitization check of your digitization readiness. Great learning, lots of investment, great improvements. So definitely now, the private environment, business environment, government environment, a lot higher readiness than what it was 2 years ago. But it was a real kind of a sanity check or a reality check. Are we really digital or not? And most of the companies freaking know, okay? We had to do huge upgrades. Digitization digitization is in line with the energy consumption. Okay. Yes, new technologies should be consuming less energy, etc., but still, higher level of digitization, even electrification of automotive industry, you need to charge the batteries from somewhere. You need to have a source of the energy. You need to have for economical growth, you need to have a cheap source of the energy. The issue, unfortunate issue, Ukraine-Russia, the energy crisis, it shows the vulnerability of the system, a dependency on the energy, and what does happen with the economics and with the business models if your utilities goes up, 50, 80, 100%. So the access to available and cheap energy is the key, and without that, it's a potential slowdown of the electrification of the digitization. I mean, talking about the energy and sources of the energy, that could be a completely different session here, so I will not get into it. Like nuclear, right? And all these kind of discussions about solar and wind. Anyway, semiconductors and chips, the COVID and post-COVID situation, and the disruptions of the supply chains in terms of semiconductors and chips, it was a huge issue. And I forgot the number. I had a chance to talk to Microsoft about a year ago. I said, it's about 400 devices a second that get connected to the internet. New devices connected to the internet a second. Okay, and it really was a couple hundred. So you need chips. There's about 260 chips in a car. In an average car today, there's 260 chips. So semiconductors, chips, which by the way creates another geopolitical risk, because all the chips, not all, but majority of the chips come from Southeast Asia, Taiwan, which is why, things are happening as they are happening, and the chips production, chip R&D development is moving into more safer harbors, U.S., Europe, etc. Every government recognizes the importance of having a chip capability, chip manufacturing in-house. So there's lots of public offers. They put the production here, like even Czech Republic is bidding for a on-semi investment extension in Rožnov, Podhradnoštěn, etc. So chip semiconductors, let's keep that in mind. Technology readiness, that's what I said earlier. Is the technology readiness there to really have the wild implementation as everybody expects? And one thing is the technology readiness, and then there's a manufacturing readiness. We know how to make it work, but can we actually produce it scalable and in economical fashion? Educational system, that's an interesting one. So, for example, the technical studies, the way they are organized today is by, let's say, by function. So mechanical guys, electric guys, digital guys, because that's how the typical product was made. Okay, that's how it was designed. But today the product is different, and you look at the product, you need multidisciplinary engineers. So you need to know certain things from electricity, from digitization, certain things from mechanical engineering. It's a completely different skill set that you need from product designers, from the engineers. And the universities are not necessarily ready for that. Actually, in Eastern Europe, especially Czech Republic, we are not ready for that. But that's a conversion, that's a change that needs to happen. System, right? If you want to have a high level of digitization, meaning also a high level of innovations, you need to have a mindset for that, and also systems set up for that. Now, speaking specifically about Czech Republic is a society and it's a system that will penalize you for a failure. That's how we were raised as a kids. You do something wrong in the school, bang, okay, you get penalized. You get the grants from Ministry of Industry and Trade to do ABC. You fail to deliver to that, bang, here comes the penalty. I mean, the principle here in general is we penalize the failures. It's wrong. It slows down the innovation. People have fear, right? I don't want to fail because of consequences. But the system is set up. It's a big discussion we have with the government, with individual ministries, especially industry and trade, kind of how you need to reset the system, how you avoid the grants, how you penalize people for not meeting the R&D. If you do a top-class R&D, you will be failing. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars on R&D as a GE, and we failed. Actually, you wanted to fail. And you want to fail quickly before it's too late and then becoming too expensive. But the whole grant system and R&D support in the Czech Republic is penalizing you for failures. So that doesn't go, that's not aligned. Anyway, so that's just a side note. Social implications, right? There's lots of debate about AI. Is it going to be taking jobs away from the people and so on and so on? That will always be a discussion. And of course, security, cybersecurity, and so on and so on. So AI in general, it's coming, it's here. Here, my suggestion, play with it, use it, see what it does, see what other people do with it, steal their ideas, copy it with pride. I mean, of course, respecting all the legal implications and copyrights and so on, but learn from the others, okay? Learn from somebody else's mistakes. It's cheaper than your own mistake, etc. But you cannot, I mean, it is happening, and it will be happening, and it will be happening with a higher speed. So be mind open for digitization, be dangerous enough to know what it can do for your business, how it can change, or how it can completely destroy your business model. It's an important subject to observe. So that's it. If any questions, be happy to try to answer.
Okay, I kick it off. Question regarding speed of change of business models. What do I mean? A couple of years ago, I had the feeling there was a hype about the change of business models, something, as there is software as a service, it started to be something like manufacturing as a service. Let me give you an example. There is a worldwide #1 manufacturer of machines for welded paper. It's somewhere in Bavaria, nobody knows it. Who buys those machines? Well, those guys who make welded paper. In fact, they don't need a machine because their product is welded paper. So they changed the business model that they are not buying the machine to make welded paper, but they are buying, I don't know, 1 million of square meters of welded paper done by the machine, because they are selling welded paper. That's a change in business model for the machine manufacturer, because as we were saying before, service was an income for the machine guy. Suddenly it's a cost for the machine guy, because he has to make sure that the machine does produce 1 million square meters of welded paper. Same is true in many other industries. I don't know whether this was called machine or manufacturing as a service or something. Big hype, 2018-19, changing business models. My question is, where is that today? Is that also that? It's changing, by the way, the financial industry, because who puts the machine on its as an asset on its balance sheet? The manufacturer of the machine wants to get it off. The buyer who makes the welded paper doesn't want to have it on the balance sheet. So there comes a finance industry who is used for long liabilities like insurances. They are more than happy to take it on the balance sheets for 30 years for a fee. So many implications. How is the speed of that going?
Agree. Yes. So two things come to my mind as example. I will use the aircraft engines because initially it was the same thing. Instead of selling the manufacturing device, I'll sell aircraft engine, or usually two of them for an airplane. The change in the business model that happened a while ago, I'm not selling you an engine. I'm selling you a flight hour. You will pay me for the flight hour, and that's a service, right? You can own the airplane, you can own the engine, or I will still own the engine, and you will pay me by hour. So you fly, you give me $2,000 per flight hour, all included. I can scale it. I say all inclusive is X $1,000 per hour. If you don't want insurance included, if you don't want potential FOD for an object damage, then it will be lower. You can put you can customize for different kind of a customers, different market segments, a different price sensitivity for the customers. It's the same principle. I will have the asset on my balance sheet, but I want to get paid for that because it's a cash. If I calculate it correctly into the revised business model, I'm making a lot more money on it. Customer actually pays more than what he or she would pay normally, but it's a risk-free. So you buy sort of an insurance, you buy the service sort of an insurance, and it's predictable. I don't have to worry about will the engine break or not. I don't have to worry about it. It's an issue of whoever has it on the balance sheet. I just only, I know this month or next year I will fly this many hours. I know what I have to bill, put into my unit price. It's predictable. So yes, and I think it's, and the second example that comes to, that's already 10, 15 years old example. When things like Booking.com came up, Uber came up, or imagine you're Uber. And at that time, you didn't own a single car. It's a fantastic business model because you just subcontract the drivers, and it's a service that what you contract with the drivers. So the only thing that pretty much you have on the balance sheet is your IT system, and probably a bunch of IT guys, but not a single car, because it's part of it on somebody else's balance sheet. So I remember, your question reminded me of the conversation, some senior GE guys, and of course, GE is always about, the assets, balance sheet, how do we optimize it because of the stock, because of the street, Wall Street, and said, look at this business model. Look at this business model, what amount of cash it generates, and you have pretty much nothing on the balance sheet.
So now that we exchange examples of the business model, my question is, because the industry out there, the world is not functioning like that for 80%. Those are still high-end solutions. What about the speeds that changes basically so many businesses that you sell the service?
I think it goes back to the industry Internet of Things, because if you are more or less product oriented, if you sell the products, that's usually it. There could be some aftermarket service and but if you are able to change this business model, you need to make it economically viable for you. So it's the data. It's the predictive maintenance models, and without digitization, it will not happen. So in some countries, specifically speaking, Eastern Europe, including Czech Republic, the speed of changing these business models is very slow. It is slow. It is extremely slow. And first, it's the kind of old-fashioned market. What is digitization? Why? Why shall I redesign? I will sell it, and then it's somebody else's problem, which is fair. But if I make it my problem, I can make money on it if I do it a smart way. So I think it's a mentality change. U.S. is a U.S. market, North American market, a lot more entrepreneurial than here. Also, you have a lot higher rate of the failures there, but it leads to this progress. So it is happening, but I don't see it in this region. 1 week ago, we had as an American Chamber of Commerce, we had David Marek, chief economist from Deloitte. There was a guy from Boston Consulting Group, a guy from A.T. Kearney, and one more, an economist from Citi. And we discussed the state of the Czech economy, German economy, and the global competitiveness. And there was an interesting thought. It was a fact. It was not a thought that the Czech labor doesn't compete with the Chinese labor. It competes with the Chinese robots. So a country made a strategy, whether it was democratic or it doesn't matter, but country made a strategy. We're going to digitize because we want to be ahead of what's going to happen in 10 years. Now our labor, it is competitive, but it will change. Let's digitize like crazy. The amount of robots per capita is super. I forgot the numbers. I think it's Japan and China kind of competing in the top three. So it's a strategy. That's why they do it. I said, we believe this is the right strategy. We believe this is the right business model. We do it. If I look at the Czech economy, and you ask what is the strategy of the Czech economy, some people say there's no strategy, or the other group of people will say we have too many strategies. We don't know also which one actually applies. So, in general, Europe is slow adapting the new business models. And even the examples I gave, I think Booking was a startup somewhere from Estonia. And you have lots of interesting startups that originated in Europe, all run away, and they are now US companies. Why? More business-friendly, entrepreneurial mindset, etc., etc. So this is an issue that Europe is solving, EU is solving. The same what I just described in the Czech Republic is happening in Germany as well. Germany, they have the same symptoms. If you see an issue with the educational system, too bureaucratic, too slow, it doesn't matter if you have Czech Republic or Germany, same symptoms. And what are the two biggest economies in Europe? France and Germany. So if Germany gets sick, and they already are sick, it's an issue for Europe. It's an issue.
So, thank you for your speech. It was really nice. I want to ask you, because you mentioned a lot of technologies, but when we think about business, at the end, the solution or the outcome is the money. And there is also the other hand with all these things, even with the IOT. I think it started as cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I would like to know what is your perception about that one? Because
Sorry, about what?
about the Bitcoin, this digitalization of the money. Because if we are saying the digitalization, now we are not using any more cash even in Europe, and we are using this banking system, but the understanding of banking system will change also. Because with the Industrial Revolution, every time the meaning of money changed. And I think for my understanding, if you don't understand that perspective, you cannot adapt these systems. Because if you want IoT systems that working between each other, so you should have the money working in that speed. So what is your opinion about it? Because you never touched that point in the presentation.
Okay. Thank you for the question. I cannot talk about crypto. I am not educated. I don't have an experience. I don't play with it. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I don't at all. And I gave up the ambitions to understand it because I don't understand the logic of it. I really don't. I don't. If you ask me about inflation, high rates, geopolitical, we have models for that. We can, I don't know how crypto works. So I'm staying out of it, quite frankly. That's one. Two, even these financial services, whether it's crypto or something else, it's also changing with the digitization. And going back to previous question about business models. So we are an investment company, we buy companies, we buy real estate, improve the value, and a couple of years later, we sell it, and hopefully we make some money on it, And to be able to fund it, we have our own money. We have money from the banks, banking financing, and also we have financing that we get from the market, which is a lot more expensive than the bank financing. And we explain people, hey, put money into our funds because of ABC, join us in this co-investment because of ABC. There already are platforms that you say, I don't need you guys because there's an investment platform. There's an investment platform, and I can decide I put 50,000 checks on this particular real estate property owned by, commercial bank, as an example. People can invest themselves. This is kind of a democratizing investment environment. So I know that for next 3-5 years, our business model is okay. But I have to act now. I really have to act now and think about how do we change the business model? What tools we need to have? Do we develop it ourselves? Do we buy someone with that technology, with that platform already? Do we partner with someone on kind of a fee exchange basis? Because this is a threat to our business model. So it's kind of thinking ahead, seeing what's happening on the horizon, who already has it. And I know I have to adapt the business model for raising because all the digitization is kind of libertizing you already, right? I mean, you don't need a travel agency to book you a hotel in Roma. You do it yourself. Probably in 3 minutes you have it. A car in Sicily, you do it in 5 minutes. And the same thing will be happening with the investment. So, and by the way, going back to this Fast 50, I saw a bunch of platforms there. So it is happening. So that's another thing where digitization is going to happen. I mean, already 10, 15 years ago, there were banks without any branches. Everything's online. But it's a kind of a regular banking, okay? But now even the investment platform, you decide yourself. Of course, you click on the disclaimer that whatever shit happens, it's just your problem. But you decide, and within a few minutes, you can change your mind. You can pull the money back and put it elsewhere. And at that moment, nobody will influence you. You will make your own decision. And now the investment is you sit down with the investment banker, you discuss your ideas, and the bankers, if it's a good banker, will advise you in the best interest of you. If it's not necessarily the best banker, will advise you a product that he or she gets the best fees out of, commission, okay? So that's another example of how the business models needs to be adjusted in a different market segment, in a different industry. So I'm sorry, I have really no idea about, I don't have a knowledge of the crypto. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm staying out of it because I don't understand it.
I like that one sentence because what you said, I am separating Bitcoin and crypto differently. So Bitcoin is actually the solution to what you are saying. Do we need banks to say that we have money? So at the end, this system will tell you, I will tell you that I have that money, this next person next to me say that I have that money, and we will confirm each other. We will not need, if we will use in the future this system. So I'm seeing like that. For me, it's another exciting topic, but crypto's a little bit another way that I don't also understand that.
Because then it's also about the system security, right? If this particular bank goes down, I know what will happen. There's a system. But I don't know what a virtual platform, if it disappears, I don't know what will happen. I really don't. And maybe nothing will happen because there's no regulation today. By the way, there's an interesting movie, nothing to do with the crypto, but I found it like 3 weeks ago on Netflix, Leave the World Behind. It's kind of a catastrophic, not a brutal one, but it made me think for like 2 weeks. It's fantastic. Leave the world behind.
Yeah, that's thank you.
Okay. I know while you were talking, you mentioned a lot. First of all, you're in the investment space, and second of all, you've lived in a lot of different countries, or you've been to a lot of different countries. So you mentioned Japan, of course, what happened in Iran. You were in the United States, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. You mentioned. One of the things I was thinking of is I think I'm quite interested as well in investments, and especially on the topic of digitalization. I have a pretty similar background I lived in a lot of different countries in my life. And like from my experience, I've noted quite a lot of interesting things about digitalization. You mentioned the slowdown. For example, I used to live in China, and I remember distinctly as a child, even 10 years ago, no one paid cash anymore. Like, everything's digitalized. Even the grandma on the street selling chairs to you, she might seem bored, on her, she'd ask for cash, but next thing you know, she whips out a terminal, or there's an ad, and you just you scan a QR code, and you get to pay like that. And then the second thing I remember is in Rwanda, which is a country that 20 years ago was infamous for the genocide that happened there. Nowadays, they have drone technology that they implement in digitalization to essentially send medications. This doctor just texts on WhatsApp to this application. It's a Silicon Valley-based company that basically shoots out drones from the center of the country. They put some blood or some vitamins or whatever you need. They put it on the drone and it flies it. Within an hour, it's anywhere within the country. And sort of like based on these examples, a lot of them in sort of the developing world, the non-Western world, I was wondering, like, from an investment perspective and looking at like digitalization, like, where do you think the future is going to be, and like where is there a faster like progress of innovation? Is it Europe, or is it the US? Is it Asia? Is it Africa? How have you seen it from your experience?
I don't. Okay, good. Thank you. I don't know who will be faster, I know who will be the slowest. It will be Europe. It will be Europe. Okay, including AI. I mean, AI needs to be regulated so it doesn't get out of control. But Europe will overregulate it. And it will take time until that regulation happens, and then it will get overregulated. We will be the slowest, for sure. I don't know the speed of North America versus Asia or Middle East. US will be open market, right? It will be the competition, and I'm a big believer in a competition. So there will be progress for sure. I think in terms of let's say ultimate digitization, I think Asia will be first because of its non-democracy, And you just gave an example on China, because the government says from this day there is and so they will digitize. And listening to you, it reminded me of a conversation about like 5 years ago. I was sitting with Martin Jan. He's in the board of Volkswagen or Skoda Auto. I was like, hey, the auto miles, when it's going to be up? And he said, you know what, the first will be in kind of a non-democratic countries. Because he said, I'm going to build a new city. And everything will be emission-free, only electric cars, everything will be interconnected. And you can do it. If you have tons of money that you can throw into it, you will build it that way. But if you want to increase the autonomous driving, for example, in Europe, for the next 20 years, you will have an existing cars. And that will slow it down because you need to coexist. So until the old stuff retires or reaches, the certain majority of the percentage will be autonomous or full electric, you cannot have a fully autonomous systems. Unless in a non-democratic country, you said, I'm going to build a new city, which is happening in Egypt, it's happening in Saudi, it's happening in UAE, and it's happening in China. I'm building a new city, and only these standards will be there, only. And that's how you drive the digitalization. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, but I think that's why they will be faster. Lessons learned, adaptability through that country will be faster. It will attract the other foreign investments. Okay, this is interesting. I can make money on it. It's digitalization. If I already invested so much into the R&D, into the next gen technology, why should I push it through the freaking slow Czech market if I can sell it to Saudi? Okay. So I think it will the speed of implementation will be in this kind of I don't want to even call it semi-democratic, but okay, in those kind of regimes is my guess. By the way, digitization. Okay, yesterday I have a fantastic experience in digitization. I was going for a business dinner, and not far away from here there was a homeless guy selling this new Nový Prostor. Okay, I think it's a monthly or something. And I usually don't have any cash. So he was nice, polite. I'll say, sorry, I don't have any cash. He pulled out a credit card reader. He had a credit card reader. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So, click, it was done. So all these restaurants, we don't accept the credit cards. Screw you, seriously. You're playing with the system. You don't want to pay taxes. You have a homeless guy having a credit card reader.
Sweden had started with that 5 years ago. The beggars on the streets, they had a credit card reader because there was no cash.
Or like, I remember in Madagascar as well, when we wanted to pay a tour guide, and Madagascar was very, very poor. Like, when you go there, you'll really see it. And everybody has a phone there, though, you'll realize. And then you have like a mud hut. This is not really digitalization, but literally they might not have running water, running electricity, but literally they put a tiny little solar panel on top of their hut, really like not bigger than like half this table. Put it on top, you have a wire going down, you charge in your phone, boom. And then you can send money by texting each other on a phone. So they asked us, if you don't have cash, and by the way, cash there, you take out like 20 euros and you have like 1 million of their local currency. So to this day, I still have the local currency as like a souvenir. But he was like, just text us to this number. There's like a link, boom, send us the money. And like we were just shocked, the sort of. And this is it's a very poor country. I think it is a democracy. I don't know if it's the democratic part that makes a change, but you're always surprised when you travel and see how digitization has its ways in different parts of the world. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you very much for your concluding question, concluding remarks. Thank you very much for your really brilliant this lecture. I suppose we are going to get some takeaways students right from the lecture. You emphasize several times the advice like be dangerous. It's an interesting expression. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Why you choose the word dangerous and what exactly do you mean?
I wrote a book, AHA on leadership. Those there are my personal stories, and usually kind of my personal fuck ups. But the ones I had many. Okay, everybody has plenty. But these are the ones that kind of really opened my mind big times, and I changed the way I used to work, the way I used to lead people, etc., etc. It's in this book. So there's a couple of thoughts, like be like dangerous enough, but. You cannot, the current world is extremely complex and it will get worse, okay? And you cannot know everything. You really cannot know everything. So you need to pick, when I was in G Aviation, I grew up through the organization, and at the end I was a CEO of a particular division, turboprop engines, headquartered here in Czech Republic. And because of that role, I also had to be a chairman of the safety board, and ultimately be responsible for the product safety and flight safety. So when my manager approached me, this is a G standard. If you gotta take it, you have to chair the safety board. Like, this is a job for the engineers. I'm a commercial guy, program guy, business guy. This is very technical. But okay, I had to take it. So of course you need to think about, do I understand why this is happening? I don't have to understand why the particular blade got released, liberated the engine, but I have to be able to connect the dots. So I need to know how compressor works. Do I have to be an expert on the compressor and thermodynamic equations, those kind of things? No. But I gotta be dangerous enough if I follow the conversation between the quality guy and engineering and the test cell guy. I gotta be able to say, does this make sense? Does this make sense? And dangerous enough also meaning you gotta be able to ask the questions. Again, not say, oh, you're wrong, you're right. Oh, why do you think this is the way? If you consider this, how come you're saying the fuel leaked through this porosity and caused the fire on the air? How is it possible that is happening? Can you explain me? Can you help me understand? And through that, and tell them, I don't understand how this works. Can you help me to understand it better? But then there are things like, if I'm leading the investment company, I need to know something about the real estate, how the valuation is done, how do you make money on real estate, what are the typical business models, who is best in class in the Czech market, what are the different segments, how much money you can make in segments of the retail, commercial space, residential. You got to learn the basics. Again, do I have to be the expert? No. I know that one thing I'm really super expert is the private equity, not how to buy the company and how to sell it, but how to run it. How to get the best out of it, how to squeeze out the asset so we get the best possible productivity, etc. That's my knowledge, that's my expertise. For everything else, I need to be dangerous enough to see, do I select the right people for the team? Do they perform as expected? Are they best in class compared to what the competitors have? That's dangerous enough. Am I expert on flying cars? No, but I can have a conversation. I can have a conversation about the hydrogen in aviation. Again, am I an engineer? No, but I know the key things from that. So what is resonating now through the technology world? It's probably three things. So know something about it. Know something about it.
Okay, thank you very much. I can assure you've been interested.
Well, thank you.
Can I also have one question? You haven't touched enough the topic of sustainability. But first of all, thank you very much for this presentation. It was exciting and awesome. But you mentioned energy and sustainability. How do they play together? How can Europe maybe, compared to China, compared to the US, catch up on that?
Sustainability, I don't know, there are different sustainability. Sustainability of the business model. I mean, is the business sustainable, viable, am I going to go bankrupt next year or for the next 10 years I'm okay? So that could be a sustainability. But if you mean sustainability like the environmental sustainability, Green Deal, decarbonization, etc., that's a very important topic. And it's another one where the society is completely divided, right? People hating ESG, environmental, social governance. Some people absolutely hate it. Some people, this is the way. We have to push it through, be more strict, etc. And I think this is personal opinion. It got out of control. Lots of decisions were made based on ideology versus scientific facts. I'm not against protecting the environment. I'm not against the ESG. I'm just of an opinion that it's going to have a reasonable time scale. Still aggressive, still ambitious, but reasonable based on scientific facts. And that didn't happen. If I see Germany switching off the nuclear power stations and turning on the coal ones, I don't get it. But we made a decision to switch it off, so we're going to switch it off, and they did. So now you have 3 or 4 coal power stations which are already decommissioned. They put it back in operation because there was a shortage. And another example, you look at the electric cars. Hey, it's electric, it's emission-free. But the important thing is, what is the entire life cycle cost? And the personal experience, I'm a big fan of the Volvos. So I have Volvo XC90, regular one, burning fuel. Now I have a hybrid, okay? And my fuel consumption is the same. I have the same fuel consumption. I filed a warranty claim. I returned the car to Volvo. I said something is wrong. It's the same driver. I'm driving the same roads, the same style, the same load. How come I cannot have the same fuel consumption? So they tested and everything is okay. And I say, you dumbass, it's a lot heavier because there are batteries, so what do you expect? Of course, there's a higher consumption. So what's the point of putting the chemicals inside and the batteries if I have the same fuel consumption? Because the same fuel consumption means I have the same emissions. So, and that's maybe a wrong example, but again, it's the technology. By the way, the discussion with Václav Smil is that there's no economy. There's only energy conversion. There's no economy. Everything is only about energy conversion. And if you think about it, it's absolutely true. So that's something I took away from the conversation with him. And he is strongly against the current ESG policies because it limits the economy. And by the way, about months ago, BlackRock and a few other big investment companies and banking financial houses from the States said, hey, we are slowing down on ESG because we put tons of money into it and we don't see any returns. And the return could be, it's non-tangible, right? We have a cleaner air, nothing against that. As we don't see the impact. So we're slowing it down because we're losing the competition. And because US is a lot less regulated than Europe, they will do it. They said, it doesn't make sense. So let's pivot, let's change the directions. Not forget it completely, but let's make it more reasonable. I think Europe will get to it as well, but a few years later, and I think there will be some economical damage because the companies are leaving. We see it. The new investments are not coming to Czech Republic. High energy costs, etc. But the companies not even coming to Germany, and some businesses are shifting from Germany. So high utilities, the crazy regulations, the ESG stuff, and it's not necessarily sustainability, but it's included in the ESG, like defense industry. Few years ago, ESG, nuclear is bad. Nuclear is bad. Nobody will fund it. Banks that we will not provide any financing for nuclear, industries, etc., etc. Then the EU said, you know what? Actually, it's a zero emission. We have an issue with the waste, yes, but it's a zero emission. It's a green now. Okay, Austria filed a lawsuit against the Brussels, but now it's on the list of a green energy. So nuclear is now okay. It's a friend again. We have one company which is defense. We're the bad guys. So you see all the governments increasing the spending. NATO members being under pressure. You committed to have a 2% of GDP on the defense. You're way below that. 50% of NATO members are below that. Now they are spending money again because of what's happening geopolitically. And the company says, fine, I want to help you. I don't have a financing because bank says I'm not going to do it. So this ESG really got kind of ideological versus kind of, they lost the contact with the reality. So again, we got to move more towards carbon neutral. And the targets are, some business, some industries 2040, 2050. China clearly said I'm going to do it 2070 because it's more rational. Again, I will not be here 2070, so I don't know what will happen. But we need to be more environmental friendly for sure, but not at any cost. In my opinion, okay. Because why? Okay. We can have a clean Europe. But it will be a skansen. It will be industrial skansen. And it will not change the global environment at all. It will help regionally, but not globally. Because the economical growth is connected and is fueled only by available energy source. Only. You need to have an energy source. So tell the guys in Bangladesh, in India, in Latin America, we have to globally reduce the emissions, so you guys stay poor. Stay poor because we need to reduce the absolute value of emissions in the atmosphere. It's not going to happen. And we don't have the rights to tell them to slow down. They will grow like we want to grow. So having a regionally isolated island that will be super green, okay, I don't have my respiration issues, I'm okay, but we will end up in a skansen, industrial skansen, if we don't take the reasonable time scale. Because the other countries will grow, again, Bangladesh, India, they will grow. They have to, they have to. Unless we want to see another kind of war. Anyway. So it's a big issue. It is an issue. And you're really balancing the economical needs with the environmental needs.